So yesterday, shortly after 7 o'clock in the morning, the fire department was dispatched for an automated general alarm to the address behind us here. Fire crews arrived on the scene to find a large crack in the front parking lot and an apparent natural gas leak from that crack. The initial crews made entry into the structure where they encountered dangerous concentrations of natural gas inside the building. They initiated a quick and hasty search for occupants throughout the structure. Finding no occupants, they then evacuated to a safe distance, isolated the area with the help of county police, established defensive firefighting positions, and awaited the shutoff of gas from the exterior by BG&E. At approximately 7:58 in the morning, there was a large explosion and a resulting exterior fire from a crack in the parking lot that they had observed on arrival. The crews then took up positions where they could defend the building from that fire, and eventually the gas was shut off, which mitigated the hazard of that natural gas, but created, obviously, the hazard of the collapse and the collapse zone. So throughout the day yesterday, fire crews worked with other agencies to safely control access to the area, prevent injuries, and to assess the building's structural integrity in coordination with other agencies. Today, we will continue with those efforts and hope to coordinate with building occupants so that they can recover some of their key assets. At this point, the origin and cause of the event is still an active investigation by the Office of the Fire Marshal and also County Police. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the high degree of collaboration that has occurred on this incident between government agencies and private agencies alike. This attitude and culture in Howard County truly puts the citizen first. I'd also like to take a moment to commend the first responders on this incident. The Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue, the men and women, the Howard County Police Department, and BG&E. I think we're all thankful that there was no loss of life on this incident. I also believe that this outcome can be attributed to their preparation, hard work, dedication, and their good tactical decision making. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next, we'll have our BG&E representative, Aaron Coos.
Thank you, Brad. Aaron Coos, I'm spokesperson for BGE. That's AARONKOOS. I'm also joined here today by our Vice President of Gas Operations, Chris Burton, BURTON, and Frank Leonhardt, Director of Gas Operations, LEONHARTT. Well, first I'll thank and echo the thanks for all of the prompt and skilled response by the Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue Services, the entire Howard County team, and the responding BGE crew members who moved quickly to clear the area to a safe distance and turn off gas and electric service. Their actions prevented a very serious incident from becoming much worse. This was an extremely dangerous event. It remains a very difficult situation for the businesses that are involved. We are committed to fully understanding the cause and are working closely with investigators. This is, as mentioned, an active investigation. We cannot speculate on the possible causes yet, the source of the leak, or the ignition source. There is still equipment we have not been able to examine due to access issues with the building. I can walk you through what we've done so far to ensure the situation is safe and provide preliminary findings from system inspections. So first I'll go over the timeline. BGE received a call from the fire department at 6:55 a.m. The BGE emergency responder arrived at the site at 7:15 a.m. He began the process of taking gas readings and assisting with setting up the safety zone, and began working on a plan to turn off gas and power. During that process, as was mentioned, the explosion occurred at approximately 8 a.m. or just before 8 a.m. Our responding employee was uninjured. We had him examined by emergency personnel on site, and he was released with no injuries. Once the explosion occurred, additional crews arrived and began the process of turning off the gas. The gas was turned off at 10 a.m. yesterday morning. We then began the process of reviewing the history of gas odor calls for the site. There were no previous recent calls and none in the last year at this site. There was one call in February 2018 from one of the restaurants located in the building, and that was inspected and resolved as a customer appliance issue. We also reviewed the inspection history for the mains and services in this area, the gas mains and services in this area. It is on a yearly scheduled inspection schedule. That inspection occurred in July 2019, and no issues were found at the time. Yesterday, we also inspected all of the gas mains and services in the area bounded by Snowden River Parkway, McGaw Road, Dobbin Road, and Little Patuxent Parkway for leaks. None were found. That inspection is conducted from vehicle-mounted sensors and patrols on foot. All surrounding buildings were canvassed. No gas issues were found. We also tested the pressures of the mains in the area. All were normal. We tested the level of mercaptan, safety odorant that's in the gas, and it was found to be normal. A portion of the service pipe serving this building that we were able to access was pressure tested and passed the test with no leaks. Electric and gas service to this building remain off until inspectors authorize returning service. All other surrounding buildings continue to have normal service. Initial outages were the result of terminating services to the area as a safety precaution until the building could be isolated. Today, the process continues. We are standing by to inspect equipment. Once again, we have to thank our emergency responder partners, everyone in Howard County, County Executive Ball. We thank our customers, and we're committed to understanding what occurred in order to make our system safer. As always, as County Executive Ball said, as anyone with any gas safety concerns should contact BGE from a safe location at 877-778-7798. We will respond immediately and make the situation safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coos. We'll now hear from Howard County Department of Inspections, Licenses, and Permits Director, Bob Francis.
Morning. My name is Bob Francis. That's Frances. We were on site yesterday, shortly after the initial explosion, with our Chief Building Inspector, Tom Huskins. We did an initial evaluation of the building to determine what areas were safe and whether there was any concern about further collapse of the building. Approximately 2 p.m., structural engineer from the owner's representative showed up, and we did a more detailed analysis of the building. He was also was able to provide the original structural drawings for the building. There's obviously extensive damage to the building. A good portion of it is cosmetic and non-load bearing. The extent of the structural frame of the building is more or less concentrated around the central blast area. The other part that we're doing right now is trying to determine which areas of the building are safe to enter so that some of the occupants and tenants can get in and recover some of their property and start the recovery process as far as retrieving some of their goods and starting, the recovery process. That's it.
And for our final speaker today, we will hear from Larry Tweel from the Howard County Economic Development Authority.
Good afternoon. I'm CEO of the Howard County Economic Development Authority, Larry Tweel, Twele. My team is here on the ground right now working with the property owner. We have a list of 22 impacted businesses. We are contacting those businesses, assessing their needs, and working with our fire safety, building inspections, and the police department, making sure that those businesses can get in and recover immediately important documents or computer hardware that they may need. We are scheduling those appointments directly. Longer term, we are assessing the business's needs, and those that can be relocated, we will be finding temporary space for them, and obviously working with some of the other businesses that are impacted that may not be able to be relocated immediately, but making sure that there is minimal impact to their livelihood, as well as their employees. We are working with our Office of Workforce Development to make sure that the employees are also taken care of as well. Thank you.
And I just want to remind everyone, we will have an opportunity for business owners and employees to enter the building later this afternoon. To schedule that appointment, the EDA is urging those individuals to call 410-313-6517 to schedule that access appointment. And as for the fire department, we are urging everyone to make sure that you wear proper protective gear at that time, such as the hard hats and safety glasses that we, the fire department, will provide, but also to bring long sleeve shirts, pants, and proper shoe wear, such as, or no flip-flops, no sandals, or any type of slip-on shoe. So at this moment, we'll open it up for questions from the media, and we'll have our subject matter experts give those answers.
Just on gas safety, I mean, we've had gas pipes into our homes and businesses now for what? More than 100 years. How is it possible that you still have the threat, despite all those years and all that work, you still have the possibility of it?
So we are the first gas utility in the United States, 200 years of service, more than 200 years of service. You know, gas is an energy source, and you know, all energy sources carry with it inherent risk. We do as much as we can to mitigate that risk and make it as safe as possible. A big part of the gas safety program that we have and others have across the country is to make sure that our emergency responders are well informed about how to deal with emergency situations, and more importantly, that our customers and the general public are aware of what to do in a gas safety situation. And so those issues, those best practices were followed in this case, and it involves contacting us immediately if you suspect an issue, if you suspect natural gas is leaking anywhere, and our emergency responders moved very quickly to make sure that the situation remains safe.
Can anybody speak to this crack? I understand people described that there was a crack there. What do you mean by a crack? A crack in the pavement?
I'm going to have to defer to the Howard County Fire Department for that. Or
Yeah, crews actually, the initial call was for a general fire alarm. Following that, there was actually some civilians on site that reported that there's this about 8 or 10 foot crack that seems to be in the front of the parking lot. That seems to be where the noise was coming from, and that's what crews encountered when they arrived.
So 8 or 10 feet long, and
Yes.
how wide?
I don't have that level of detail. I'm sorry.
But not 8 to 10 feet wide.
No, not a hole, but a crack. Yeah.
And you said that noise was coming from?
I don't have that information exactly. It was pretty obvious from the fire that after the explosion, the fire that occurred, that there was probably some natural gas at least accumulated in there. Whether that was the actual leak, I'm not sure.
And are you aware of any construction or anything going on in the area that might have constructed that?
I am not.
There's none that you're aware of.
There's none of them I'm aware of.
Describe what your firefighters on scene experienced. I mean, they were here. There had to be dash cam on this thing. They had to be watching. What did they experience?
Well, I mean, I'm sure they experienced the explosion at close range, which anybody who's been anywhere near one, it will definitely get your attention. To my knowledge, the fire department does not have any camera footage of this. We do not have dash cams rolling in our apparatus typically. So,
How close were your people? When
well, it's difficult to explain. No, they were probably at least 100 feet away. Obviously, we suffered no losses of apparatus, no damaged apparatus, so they were far enough, which I'm very thankful for.
What happens with the rest of these businesses here, those that weren't directly damaged like over here? Are they going to be allowed to reopen, or what happens with them?
I can feel this if you want. So our county plan is to assess the structure for structural integrity and work through the economic development to coordinate with the tenants or the occupants so that they can make escorted entry into the building and retrieve some of their key assets. We hope to get that done somewhat today. Obviously, there's going to be limitations with that because part of the building you can't even do that with. But within our ability to do so, we will assist in any way we can.
So these businesses will be closed until further notice? These businesses that weren't directly impacted?
The whole structure is impacted from a power and a gas supply, and also structural integrity, which May or may not be an issue for any one occupancy, but it's clearly a problem for all of them.
Any idea what's going to happen with the building?
Are going to have to remain closed until you guys get the okay.
That is correct. Our Department of Licensing and Permits are working with engineers to determine that. Even if they are untouched, I believe they still have issues with power and gas. And I would caution to say that while it looks untouched from our distance, a concussion wave that is produced by such an explosion can cause damage that you can't really see from here.
Is there a possibility that this whole structure will be torn down?
I have no idea. I'm sorry.
What if you mentioned a central blast site? Is it? Can you point to like where that was in this building? I mean, again, to what we're seeing, I don't know if I'm looking at fire damage or initial explosive damage.
With this explosion, there really was no building fire afterwards. The fire that happened afterwards happened kind of from that crevice or crack in the front parking lot. It did start to impede the building, but it never caught the building on fire. So what you're seeing is blast damage. And you can kind of see from where the damage is the most, where the epicenter was, and I think it pretty much holds true.
Question for the example. You dealt with, dealing with, got this call to this, so what was the first reaction? Oh my, or here we go again, or?
Well, Howard County is professional. We are experienced in dealing with challenges, and while they don't happen as frequently, we know how to come together. And I think this is just another great example of the bravery and preparation and professionalism of our team. So I knew that once we had Department of Fire and Rescue Services, Police Department, Inspection Licenses and Permits, EDA, we actually had much of the infrastructure, because we had gone through natural disasters before, to mobilize very quickly and ensure that we could address the needs and the concerns of residents, businesses, and workers in a way that will be positively impactful.
Did you make the first call to the staff to go, if you have a plan, you've done it, if you go like, okay, A and B, what was the process you put in place?
So I began hearing about some of these issues and concerns, reached out to our top leadership team, and then we mobilized and began conference calls and working through the process to ensure that everyone who needed to be at the table and part of the conversation were part of that, and each person working on their specific duties and in their portfolio, but still communicating and staying collaborative so that we could mobilize quickly, react quickly, and ensure that everyone knew what each other entity was doing so that we could be effective.
And my last question was, the people standing behind me, I'm assuming some of them might be owners or employees, what do you want to say to the community who have you back up and running with them? Same conversation we had with the other participants?
Again, we are thankful that if something like this, some devastating incident like this had to happen, it happened on a Sunday morning when there was no loss of life or injuries. Moving forward, we will continue as a united Howard County, coming together, never forgetting how to help and support our businesses, our residents, those who are impacted as workers, and coming back even more strong. We are a resilient community, and we know how to come together. That's the Howard County way.
You know, there were a number of businesses that we talked to yesterday who were really concerned about being survivors. You know, you get a business going, you have a huge investment in it, you lose it, and even if you get that insurance for the product or what have you, getting your business restarted and going is very difficult. Do you have any words of comfort for them, or any promises to them about how much help they'll get to make sure that they do survive?
That's why it was important to me that to immediately mobilize our Economic Development Authority, our Office of Workforce Development, to ensure that not only the businesses, but the workers had all of the supports that they needed on day one to continue to move forward and be successful. This is going to be a challenging time for all of us, but I think that we can come together and mitigate those challenges, working with different property owners, looking at, frankly, our inventory of properties and seeing how these businesses can survive this challenge and continue as we move forward in the future years to not just survive but to thrive.
Do you have a timeline on the inspection of the structural damage?
So they're going through the inspection process once It's been cleared, and we are going to make sure that it is safe. Safety will continue to be the top priority, and as we move forward to look at the structural integrity, we'll be able to evaluate business by business what's the most appropriate time to come in.
Will it be clear today?
Chief, what was about the specific timeline of today and how people are going to be?
So we're hopeful that we're kind of working with the Economic Development Authority to schedule with some of the occupants. But we're hopeful that we can initiate that process today to at least allow them entry to get some of their key assets. It's not going to be a long time, but it's going to be escorted and to go in and get the real important things and the most meaningful things to them. We're all incredibly sympathetic to their plight, and we're here for them.
All right, last question right here. Executive for the deputy chief. You talked about you're grateful that no one was injured, that it was a Sunday morning versus a Monday. On a Monday, can you tell me roughly how many people would normally be occupying this space, or how many parking spaces there are? I mean, just to get an idea of exactly how many people might have been here on any given day.
Yeah, any idea of capacity for me, it would be implied. I mean, there's a coffee shop that obviously if it was a Monday morning, we were here operating at this incident for almost an hour before it exploded. So my belief is that we would have had time to evacuate those people. However, when a blast like that happens, this area itself becomes much denser for the miles around here. And there was damage to other buildings. There was broken windows and some minor damage on the inside to the Ascend 1 building here. And it's hard to say with that many more people in immediate proximity. It would have made that much more difficult for us. But I still like to believe we would have got it done.
Thanks, Chief. That's gonna be it for our questions. Sure. Go ahead.
I'm unaware of that personally. I know this is an active investigation through our Office of the Fire Marshal and the Police Department. So if there are cameras around and video, it will be obtained through that investigatory process.
All right, thanks everybody. I appreciate it. These folks will stick around if you want a little bit of one-on-one time, but the press conference is now concluded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me turn on my
I was going to say,
Just grab it on the ground, I'll get it.
we want our job meeting. We want our right in your way.
Test. Test.